Captain Day 1 Kim stood at the entrance of the Galactic Council chambers and felt his stomach turn. He had been to this place 46 times before, always standing behind Ambassador Hannah Park as she pleaded humanity's case. Today would be the 47th time, and he already knew how it'd end. The chamber was massive, built to accommodate hundreds of different species. Some counselors floated in tanks of liquid. Others perched on crystalline structures. A few existed as clouds of gas contained in force fields. Day 1 found his place behind Hannah's seat and watched as she prepared her documents. Her hands shook slightly. In all his years serving under her, he had never seen her hands shake. Colony World Tizen was attacked 6 days ago. Hannah began when the High Chancellor acknowledged her. Her voice carried through the chamber's translation systems, converted into thousands of languages simultaneously. 2,347 people are dead. Men, women, and children. The raiders took everything they could carry and burned the rest. Day 1 pulled up the holographic evidence. Images of destroyed homes floated above the council floor. Bodies in the streets. A school reduced to ashes. He had reviewed these images 100 times while preparing the presentation, and each viewing made him angrier. Counselor Vrex, representing the Chitauri Collective, clicked his mandibles together in what Day 1 had learned was their equivalent of a sigh. Ambassador Park, this council sympathizes with your losses. However, Colony World Tizen was established in a contested region. Your people chose to settle there, despite warnings. We filed the proper claims 70 years ago, Hannah said. Her voice remained steady, but Day 1 could see her gripping the podium. The territory was legally granted to humanity by this very council. We have the documents. Legal status and practical reality often differ, said a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. High Chancellor Morpheus, an energy being who existed partially outside normal space, spoke with a tone that suggested the matter was already decided. The council will take this petition under advisement. We will study the matter thoroughly and provide a response in due time. Due time. Day 1 had heard those words 46 times before. Due time never. It meant that human lives did not matter enough to warrant immediate action. How many more have to die? Hannah asked. She was no longer reading from her prepared statement. How many times must I stand here and show you images of dead children before this council does something? 3 years. 3 years of attacks. 15 colonies hit. Over 30,000 human lives lost. And every single time, you promised to study the matter. A sound like grinding stones filled the chamber. It took Day 1 a moment to realize it was laughter. Warlord Krax of the Vrillax Supremacy was laughing at them. Perhaps humans are simply too weak to hold territory in the galactic community, Krax said. His translator made his words sound almost pleasant, which made them worse somehow. Perhaps you should retreat to your little homeworld and leave expansion to species more capable of defending themselves. Several other counselors made sounds of agreement. Not all of them, Day 1 noticed. A few species looked uncomfortable, but not uncomfortable enough to speak up. Never uncomfortable enough to actually help. Hannah stood perfectly still for a long moment. Day 1 watched her carefully. He had served under her command for 8 years, first in the Earth Defense Fleet, and then as her military attaché in the diplomatic corps. He knew her tells. The way she breathed slowly when making a difficult decision. The slight straightening of her spine when she had chosen a course of action. I see, Hannah said quietly. Then she reached up and unpinned the diplomatic credentials from her uniform. The small badge, which identified her as an official representative of Earth to the Galactic Council, caught the light as she held it up. Then I suppose humanity no longer requires a representative to a council that does not represent us. She dropped the badge. It clattered on the polished floor of the chamber. the sound echoing in the sudden silence. "Ambassador Park," High Chancellor Morpheus said, and for the first time, Day One heard something other than boredom in the entity's voice. "You cannot simply resign your position. There are protocols, procedures." "I just did," Hannah said. She looked at Day One. "Captain Kim, please record my final statement as ambassador." Day One activated his recording device with shaking hands. "Let it be known that humanity came to this council in good faith," Hannah said. Her voice was clear now, all trace of pleading gone. "We followed every rule. We filed every form. We presented evidence that would convict in any court of law. And 47 times we were dismissed, ignored, mocked. Our people died while this council debated and studied and did nothing." She turned in a slow circle, making eye contact with as many counselors as she could. "Humanity is officially withdrawing from all Galactic Council activities. We will no longer seek your protection. We will no longer participate in your debates. We will no longer pretend that this council serves anyone but the powerful and the old. This is highly irregular," Vrex clicked. "You cannot simply withdraw from the galactic community." "Watch us," Hannah said. She walked toward the exit. Day One fell in step beside her, along with the other 3 humans who had been part of their delegation. Behind them, the council chamber erupted in noise. Some counselors were shouting. Others were conferring with their aides. A few were laughing, like this was all a joke. They made it to their shuttle without anyone trying to stop them. As soon as they were sealed inside and moving away from the station, Hannah slumped in her seat. She looked like she had aged 10 years in 10 minutes. "Did I do the right thing?" she asked quietly. Day One thought about the images of dead children from Tizen Colony. He thought about the 46 times they had been turned away before. He thought about the laughter. "Yes, Ambassador," he said. "You did." She nodded slowly. "Send the message to Earth. Use the private channel. Authorization code, protocol silence." Day One's fingers hesitated over the communications panel. Protocol silence. He knew what that meant. Every officer above a certain rank in Earth's military had been briefed. It was a plan that had been developed over years, a contingency that the politicians hoped would never be necessary. He entered the codes and transmitted the message. Back on Earth, someone would receive it and begin a process that would change everything. Humanity had tried diplomacy. They had tried following the rules. They had tried begging for help from a council that did not care whether they lived or died. No, they would try something else. As their shuttle jumped to faster-than-light speed. Heading back toward human space, Day One looked at the stars streaking past. Somewhere out there, the Galactic Council was probably already forgetting about humanity's dramatic exit. They thought humans were weak. They thought this was a tantrum that would blow over. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Day One opened a secure channel to Earth Defense Command. When Admiral J. Park's face appeared on the screen, Day One said just 3 words. "It's time, sir." Admiral J. nodded slowly. "Initiate total withdrawal. Recall all ships. Close all borders. Activate the barrier protocol." He paused. "And may whatever gods are listening forgive us for what comes next." The channel closed. Day One sat back in his seat and watched the stars. In 3 weeks, the galaxy would wake up to find that humanity had vanished. And in 6 months, they would begin to understand what they had lost. But that was for later. For now, Day One allowed himself to feel something he had not felt in 3 years of watching his people die while the council debated. He felt hope. 3 weeks after Ambassador, Hannah Park dropped her credentials on the council floor. A trader named Kyung-soo prepared to make a routine delivery to the human colony on Bizen Station. He had been trading with humans for 5 years and found them to be reliable customers. They paid on time, didn't haggle too aggressively, and their stations always had the best food. His ship dropped out of faster than light, travel at the coordinates where Bizan's station should have been. Instead, he found empty space and a single automated beacon. This territory is closed, the beacon broadcast in every known language. All ships are advised to plot courses around this region. Entry is not permitted. No exceptions. Kyung-soo stared at his navigation display. Bizan's station had housed 40,000 humans. It had been a major trading hub for this entire sector. Now there was nothing but a warning beacon. He tried to hail the station on every frequency he knew. Only silence answered. His scanners showed no debris, no signs of a battle, no indication of what had happened. The station had not been destroyed. It had simply vanished. Over the next week, Kong-Su heard similar reports from other traders. Every human colony, every human station, every human outpost had gone dark. Ships that tried to enter human territory found automated defense platforms that politely but firmly redirected them. No explanations were given. No communications were answered. Humanity had disappeared. On the Galactic Council Station, Inquisitor Thane reviewed the reports with growing concern. Thane was a reptilian species known for their intelligence-gathering capabilities, and he had been tasked with investigating humanity's withdrawal. What he was finding made no sense. "It's impossible," he told High Chancellor Morpheus during their private meeting. "You cannot hide an entire species. There are 347 human colonies, thousands of ships, millions of people. They cannot all just vanish." "Yet they have," Morpheus replied, the energy being pulsed with an emotion that Thane had learned to recognize as worry. "Our sensor networks show nothing. Our intelligence assets in human space have gone silent. Even the humans living in other species' territories have disappeared." Thane pulled up a star map. A large section of it was marked in red. This is the area that is now inaccessible. Every attempt to enter it has failed. Ships are turned back by automated systems. The few that tried to force entry through military means simply vanished. No distress calls. No debris. Nothing. What do your scouts report? Thane's tail twitched in agitation. They report a barrier, Chancellor. Something we've never seen before. It exists in quantum space, making it impossible to breach with conventional faster-than-light travel. Any ship that touches it is transported to coordinates outside the barrier. We cannot get in. Morpheus was silent for a long moment. How long would it take to build such a system? That's what troubles me most, Thane said. Based on our analysis, this barrier network required infrastructure built over decades, possibly since humans first joined the galactic community. They planned this, Chancellor. They planned it from the beginning. Far from the Council's eyes, deep in human space, Dr. Mina Choi stood in the command center of humanity's most classified research facility. Massive screens showed the status of the barrier network. Every node was green. Every system was functioning perfectly. "How long can we maintain this?" asked Admiral J. Park. He had traveled to the facility to personally oversee the initial phase of protocol. Silence. Mina looked at her calculations. "If we manage resources carefully, 10 years minimum. Possibly 20. We've been stockpiling supplies and building redundancy into every critical system since before I was born. The barrier itself is self-sustaining once activated. It draws power from quantum fluctuations in space itself. And if they try to break through, they can't," Mina said with confidence. "Not with their technology. They would need to understand quantum mechanics at a level that only 3 species in the galaxy have achieved. We're one of them. The others don't share their knowledge." Admiral J nodded slowly. He was a tall man with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much war. "What's the status of our people outside the barrier when it activated?" We got 97% back before closure, Mina reported. The remaining 3% were deep cover intelligence assets who chose to stay out. They've gone to ground according to protocol. As far as the galaxy is concerned, they're not human anymore. One of those assets was Kyung-Soo. The traitor was, in fact, Lieutenant Kyung-Soo Han of Earth Intelligence Division. He had spent 3 years building a cover identity as a merchant. And now he was perfectly positioned to observe the galaxy's reaction to humanity's disappearance. What he saw was chaos. The first sector to collapse was medical services. Kyung-Soo watched as Chitauri hospitals began canceling procedures. He listened to panicked broadcasts as their doctors realized that 40% of their medical technology came from human manufacturers. Not obvious human technology with Earth stamps on it, but components and systems that humans had quietly supplied through intermediary companies. We didn't even realize. One Chitauri physician told Kyung-Soo over drinks in a spaceport bar. Humans were so new to the galactic community, we thought they were just buying our technology and learning from us. Turns out they were fixing our technology, making it better. And now it's breaking down, and we don't know how to repair it. The economic collapse spread like a virus. Supply chains that had quietly relied on human logistics suddenly failed. Trade routes that had been optimized by human mathematicians became inefficient. Food shipments spoiled because human preservation technology was no longer available. Even something as simple as translation software began glitching because humans had been providing regular updates that no one had noticed. Kyung-Soo sent encrypted reports back to human space whenever he could. He painted a picture of a galaxy that had taken humanity for granted. They had thought humans were weak newcomers, barely worthy of attention. They had not realized that those weak newcomers had made themselves indispensable. In the Galactic Council chambers, emergency sessions became daily occurrences. Counselor Mira, an avian species that had always been polite to humanity, if not actively supportive, stood before her peers with her feathers ruffled in distress. "My people are starving," she said bluntly. 30% of our food production relied on agricultural technology purchased from human companies. We thought we understood how it worked. We were wrong. Our crops are failing. We need help. Then buy the technology from someone else, Warlord Krax growled. There is no one else, Mira said. Humans had unique approaches to agriculture. They came from a world where they had to feed billions with limited resources. They understood efficiency in ways we never bothered to learn because food was never scarce for us. Similar stories came from dozens of species. The Vrillax supremacy, so proud and aggressive, was facing power shortages because their energy infrastructure relied on human-designed fusion reactors. The crystal beings of the Luminous Collective discovered that their communications network used human encryption, protocols that were now locked and inaccessible. Inquisitor Thane compiled everything into a massive report. When he presented it to High Chancellor Morpheus, his hands were shaking. "We never saw them," Thane said. "For 50 years, humans have been part of the galactic community, and we never truly saw them. We thought they were weak because they asked for help. We thought they were insignificant because they were new. But they were embedding themselves into every critical system we had. Was this malicious?" Morpheus asked. "Were they planning to attack us?" "No," Thane said. "I don't think so. I think they were just doing what they do best. They saw problems and fixed them. They saw inefficiencies and corrected them. They helped because that's what they do. And we never even thanked them. We certainly never helped them when they needed us." Morpheus pulsed with something that might have been shame. "Can we break through their barrier?" "Not without technology we don't have. They've built a wall, Chancellor. A wall that makes their territory as inaccessible as if it were in another dimension. And they did it so quietly that none of our intelligence services noticed until it was too late. Back in human space, Captain Daewon Kim reviewed the reports from their external intelligence assets. He sat with Admiral J in a secure conference room aboard Earth's largest orbital defense station. "It's working," Daewon said. "The galaxy is beginning to understand what they lost." "People are dying," Admiral J replied quietly. "Not humans, but others." "Is this what we wanted?" Daewon thought about Tizen Colony, about the children burned in their school, about 47 times that humanity had begged for help and been ignored. "No," he said, "but it's what they chose. We offered them partnership. We asked for protection. We tried to contribute to their society. And they laughed at us. They let our people die because we weren't important enough to matter. Now they're learning that everyone matters." Admiral J stood and looked out at the stars beyond the barrier. They were the same stars, but they seemed different now. Humanity stood alone, isolated, but safe behind walls of their own making. "How long do we wait?" Daewon asked. "Until they're ready to listen," Admiral J said. "Until they understand that respect isn't optional. Until they realize that every species, no matter how young or how small, deserves to be heard." "And if they never learn?" Admiral J turned back to Daewon. "Then we build a better civilization on our own, without them." 6 months after humanity vanished behind their quantum barrier, Warlord Krax of the Vrillax Supremacy made a decision that he believed would cement his people's dominance in the galaxy. With humanity gone and the Galactic Council in disarray, this was the perfect time to expand his territory. He chose his target carefully. The Delwyn system had been contested for years, with 3 species claiming rights to its resource-rich planets. Humans had maintained a small outpost there as peacekeepers, but that outpost was now abandoned. Or so Krax thought. His fleet of 200 warships entered the system in attack formation. They encountered no resistance initially. The Delwyn colonies of the other species surrendered immediately, as Krax had expected. Weaklings, all of them. Then his fleet approached the former human outpost on Delwyn 3. The outpost was dark, seemingly abandoned like all other human facilities. Krax's tactical officer suggested they just leave it alone. "It's empty," Krax growled. "And I want to send a message. Destroy it." The first missile never reached the outpost. A defense system that had been dormant suddenly blazed to life. In the span of 30 seconds, 70 of Krax's ships were reduced to debris. The survivors fled in panic while automated turrets tracked them to the edge of the system. A message broadcast on all frequencies in perfect Vrillax language. Human territory remains human territory. Trespassers will be eliminated. This is your only warning. Krax's defeat sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The humans were gone, but they had left behind defenses that were more advanced than anything the Galactic Council possessed. And those defenses were still active, still protecting spaces that humans had claimed decades ago, that other warlords who had been planning similar expansions quietly abandoned their plans. If the absent humans could destroy a major fleet with automated systems, what else had they left behind? Meanwhile, in a medical facility on the Chitauri homeworld, Healer Sith faced a crisis that no amount of military power could solve. The genetic plague that had been dormant in the Chitauri population for generations was suddenly becoming active again. And Sith knew exactly why. "We've been dependent on human medical treatments for 15 years, Sith explained to the Chitauri Council of Healers. They designed a genetic therapy that suppressed the plague markers in our DNA. We thought it was a permanent fix. It wasn't. It required regular maintenance at the molecular level. Can we replicate their treatment?" One of the council members asked. Sith's mandibles clicked in frustration. "We've been trying for 6 months. Their understanding of genetic manipulation is beyond ours. They saw patterns in DNA that our best scientists missed. Without their regular adjustments, the therapy is breaking down. How many will die? Without intervention, 40% of our population within 2 years. Starting with the young and the old. The Chitauri weren't alone in their medical crisis. Across the galaxy, species were discovering that human doctors had been quietly treating conditions that their own medical professionals had considered incurable. Humans had a strange talent for biology, probably because they came from a world with incredible biodiversity. They saw solutions that others missed. The economic collapse accelerated. Lieutenant Kyung-soo, still maintaining his cover as a trader, watched as major trade routes failed. He sat in spaceport after spaceport, listening to merchants complain about shipping costs that had tripled or quadrupled. The humans had these algorithms, one merchant told him over drinks. They would calculate the most efficient routes for cargo ships. Not just the fastest routes, but the ones that balanced speed with fuel costs and risk factors. They sold the service cheap, almost like they were doing it as a hobby. Now that service is gone, and we're back to the old ways. Everything costs more. Another merchant nodded. And their maintenance services. Do you know how many stations relied on human engineers? They were always tinkering, always improving things. They'd fix problems we didn't even know we had. Now our stations are breaking down, and we're realizing that we don't actually understand half of our own technology anymore. Kyung-soo filed these observations in his reports. Back in human space, analysts were compiling a comprehensive picture of humanity's importance to galactic civilization. It was more extensive than even they had realized. Humans had been helping everyone, often for free or for minimal payment, simply because they saw problems that needed solving. Counselor Myra tried again to contact humanity. She had been one of the few voices that had occasionally supported human petitions, though she admitted to herself that she had never supported them strongly enough. Now her people were suffering, and she was desperate. She traveled to the edge of human space, to where the quantum barrier shimmered with invisible energy. Her ship broadcast on every human frequency she could find. This is Counselor Myra of the Avian Concordat. I am requesting a dialogue with any human authority. Please, we need to talk. For 3 days, she received no response. Then, on the 4th day, a message came through. Counselor Myra, your request for dialogue has been noted. Humanity is not currently engaging in diplomatic relations with the Galactic Council or its member species. If you have an emergency that requires immediate attention, state it now. The voice was artificial, clearly a computer system. But at least it was a response. My people need food, Mira said. Our agricultural systems are failing. I know this is our fault. I know we should have been paying attention. But people are hungry. Children are hungry. Please. There was a long pause. Then, supply drones will be dispatched to coordinates that will be transmitted to your ship. The supplies are a one-time humanitarian gesture and do not indicate a resumption of trade relations. Do not attempt to track the drones back to their point of origin. Any attempt to breach the barrier will result in the immediate termination of all aid. Thank you, Myra said, and she meant it. May I ask why you're helping us when we didn't help you? Another pause. Because that's what humans do. We help, even when you don't deserve it. The connection ended. Mira sat in her command chair and felt shame wash over her. The humans were still helping, even after everything the galaxy had done to them. Back in the Galactic Council chambers, High Chancellor Morpheus called an emergency session. Every counselor was required to attend. The chamber was full for the first time in decades. We face multiple cascading crises, Morpheus began. Economic collapse, medical emergencies, infrastructure failures. And now we have confirmation that human, automated defenses are still active and will fire upon any attempt at territorial expansion. into regions they previously protected. Then we need to breach their barrier, Warlord Krax said. Despite his defeat at Delwyn, he was still arrogant. We have the combined might of thousands of species. They're just one world hiding behind a wall. They're one species that we didn't bother to understand, Counselor Vrex clicked. The Chitauri representative had become much more humble since his people's plague had returned. And now we're paying the price for that ignorance. Are you suggesting we apologize? Krax snarled. Bow to these upstart children? I'm suggesting we acknowledge reality, Vrex replied. Humans were never weak. We were just blind. They integrated themselves into our civilization so thoroughly that removing them has caused systematic failures across hundreds of worlds. And they did this while we were mocking them. A counselor from a species that rarely spoke raised a tentacle. Perhaps we should consider why they felt the need to build that barrier in the first place. They came to us 47 times asking for help. 47 times. And we did nothing. They lost 30,000 people while we debated, another voice added. How would any of us respond if our people were dying and no one cared? The debate continued for hours. Some counselors wanted to attempt a military solution, to force their way into human space and demand that humanity resume their role in the galactic economy. Others, increasingly, were beginning to understand that humanity had every right to withdraw. They had followed all the rules, and the rules had failed them. In human space. Ambassador Hannah Park watched the council debates through their intelligence feeds. Lieutenant Yuna O, one of their best pilots, had been conducting reconnaissance missions just outside the barrier, using stealth systems to monitor galactic communications. They're starting to understand, Yuna reported. Not all of them, but some. The reasonable ones are beginning to see what happened. Hannah nodded. She looked older now, the stress of the past 6 months showing in new lines on her face. And the unreasonable ones? Still calling for war. Still believing that military force can solve this. Let them try, Admiral J said. He had joined the meeting remotely from Earth Defense Command. Our defensive systems are holding. Every simulation shows that we can repel any attack they can mount. And every attack they attempt will only make the reasonable counselors more aware of how outmatched they are. People are dying, Hannah said quietly. Not our people, but theirs. Children are going hungry. The sick are not getting treatment. I wanted them to understand our pain, but I didn't want this. You didn't cause this, Day One said. He had been appointed as Hannah's deputy during the isolation period. They caused it by taking us for granted. Every death, every shortage, every failure is the direct result of them not valuing what we contributed. We're not killing anyone. We're just not saving them anymore. Is there a difference? Hannah asked. Yes, Day One said firmly. There is. We begged them to save our people, and they refused. Now they're experiencing what we experienced, and some of them are finally understanding what that means. Hannah stood and looked at the star map, showing the barrier and the chaos beyond it. How much longer? Until they're ready to change, Admiral J said. Until they build a system where species like us don't have to beg for basic protection. Until they learn that every voice matters, not just the powerful ones. And if that never happens? Admiral J's face on the screen was grim. Then we've already accepted that we'll build our own civilization. Alone, if necessary. The Galactic Council chambers had never been so quiet. High Chancellor Morpheus floated at the center of the room, his energy form pulsing with an emotion that every species present recognized as defeat. Around him, hundreds of counselors waited in silence. That it had been 1 year since humanity disappeared behind their barrier. 1 year of cascading failures, economic collapse, and growing desperation. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson about taking things for granted. We are dying. Morpheus said simply. His words translated into hundreds of languages simultaneously. Not quickly, but certainly. 23 species face extinction-level events without human assistance. Our economy has contracted by 40%. 3. Wars have started over resources that were once abundant when human logistics managed distribution. And our people are losing faith in this council's ability to protect them. Counselor Rex stood, his mandibles clicking slowly. The Chitauri population has declined by 12%. Our children are dying of a plague that humans had cured. My people cry out for help, and I have nothing to offer them. The Vrillax supremacy faces starvation, Warlord Krax admitted. The proud warlord looked diminished, his aggression replaced by desperation. Our agricultural systems have collapsed. We're rationing food while our warriors grow weak. This is unacceptable. Counselor Myra spoke next. We have tried everything. Military force failed. Our fleets cannot penetrate the human barrier. Economic pressure is meaningless because they're completely self-sufficient. Intelligence operations have yielded nothing. They anticipated every move we made. Then what do you propose? Another counselor asked. Morpheus pulsed brighter. There is only one option remaining. We must do what we should have done 1 year ago. We must apologize. The chamber erupted. Some counselors shouted in agreement. Others roared in anger. The idea that the Galactic Council, representing thousands of species across millions of worlds, should apologize to one young species was unthinkable to many. They're children in galactic terms, one counselor protested. We've existed for millennia, while they've barely left their homeworld. How can we bow to them? Because they're right and we're wrong, Rex clicked. Because they came to us for help, and we ignored them. Because their people died while we debated. Because they contributed more to our civilization than we ever acknowledged. Choose whatever reason you like, but the truth remains. We need them more than they need us. The debate raged for 3 days. Finally, exhausted and desperate, the council voted. By a narrow margin, they approved a formal apology and an offer to renegotiate humanity's place in the galactic community. Morpheus himself composed the message. It was broadcast on every human frequency, transmitted to the barrier on all channels, and repeated continuously. To humanity from the Galactic Council, we acknowledge our failures. We ignored your pleas for help. We dismissed your contributions. We allowed your people to die while we hid behind bureaucracy and politics. We were wrong. On behalf of the Galactic Council and all member species, we offer our sincere apologies. We request a resumption of diplomatic relations and offer full council membership with voting rights. Please respond. For 2 weeks, there was silence. The galaxy waited. Some species began preparing for a future without humanity. Others made plans to adapt to permanent isolation. Then, on the 15th day, a human ship appeared at the edge of the barrier dot. It was unlike any vessel the galaxy had seen. Sleek and powerful, built with technology that made Council warships look primitive. The ship broadcast a simple message. A human representative will arrive at the neutral station in 3 days. Prepare to receive Special Envoy Tae-Young Lee. Lieutenant Tae-Young Lee was young for such an important role, only 28 years old. But he had been chosen carefully. He was smart, diplomatic, and most importantly, he had lost family in the Teasan colony massacre. He understood both the need for justice and the cost of revenge. His ship docked at the neutral station with an escort of 5 human warships. The warships waited at a distance, a quiet reminder of humanity's capabilities. Tae-Young entered the council chambers wearing a simple gray uniform with no decorations except one pin, a memorial badge showing the names of every human who had died during the years when the council did nothing. The counselors stared at him. This was not the desperate Ambassador Hannah Park they remembered. This was something else entirely. This was humanity confident in its power. "Members of the Galactic Council," Taiyang said. His voice was calm, almost cold. "I am here to deliver humanity's response to your apology." He pulled up a holographic display. Images began to scroll through the air. Every petition humanity had filed. Every colony that was attacked. Every time they had asked for help. 47 times we came to you. 47 times you ignored us. 30,742 humans died while you debated. We followed every rule. We filed every form. We provided evidence that would convict in any court. And you did nothing. The images continued. Children's faces. Destroyed homes. Memorials for the dead. We were mocked. Called weak. Told that we deserved our fate for settling in contested regions that you yourselves had approved. Warlord Krax laughed at our dead children. Taiyang turned to look directly at Krax. The warlord, once so proud, could not meet his eyes. So we left. We activated systems we had been building since the day we joined this council, because we understood, even then, that you might fail us. And we were right. We have apologized, Morpheus said. We acknowledge our failures. What more do you want? Justice, Taeyong said. And change. Your apology is noted, but words are cheap. Here are humanity's terms for resuming any form of relations with the galactic community. He transmitted a document to every counselor. They read in shocked silence. Full reparations to be paid to the families of every human killed while the council delayed. A complete restructuring of council procedures to ensure no petition can be ignored. The establishment of a protection force for smaller species that cannot defend themselves. And humanity wants autonomous control of our security zone with no council oversight. These terms are excessive, one counselor protested. These terms are fair, Taiyang replied. You want our medical technology? Our logistics systems? Our agricultural innovations? Then you pay the price of your negligence. You want access to human space for trade? Then you agree to protect species who cannot protect themselves. You want our help? Then you prove you've learned from your mistakes. Warlord Krax stood. And if we refuse? If we decide to take what we want by force? Taeyang smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. Try. He pressed a button on his wrist device. The holographic display changed to show a weapons test. A small human ship fired on an uninhabited moon. The moon cracked like an egg, breaking apart in seconds. This is a planet killer, Taeyang said calmly. We have 12 of them operational. They use technology derived from our barrier systems. We built them in the year we spent alone, wondering if you would try to force your way into our space. We hoped we'd never need to show them to you. The council chamber was completely silent. We don't want war, Taeyang continued. We never wanted war. We just wanted to live in peace and be treated with basic respect. But we're no longer asking. We're telling you how this will work. Either you agree to our terms, or we remain isolated and you continue to collapse without us. You would let civilizations die? Vrex asked quietly. We would let you experience the consequences of your own choices, Taeyang replied. Just as you let us experience the consequences of yours when you refused to help us. Counselor Myra stood. The Avian Concordat agrees to your terms. All of them. One by one, other counselors stood. Some agreed immediately. Others took longer, struggling with pride and ego. But eventually, even Warlord Krax stood. The Vrillax supremacy agrees, he said. Our people are starving. We have no choice. There's always a choice, Taiyang said. We chose to isolate ourselves rather than beg for scraps of respect. You're choosing to accept accountability rather than face extinction. Both are valid choices. High Chancellor Morpheus pulsed with resignation. The Galactic Council accepts your terms. We will begin implementing reforms immediately. We will pay reparations. We will change. We'll see, Taeyang said. Humanity will be watching. We'll lower our barrier gradually as you demonstrate good faith. We'll share our technology again as you prove you've learned. But this time, we're not going to pretend to be weak. We're not going to beg for help. And we're never going to forget what happened when we trusted you to do the right thing. He walked toward the exit, then paused and turned back. One more thing. Every species in this galaxy, no matter how small or new, will be heard. Their petitions will be addressed within 30 days, or the Council must provide a detailed explanation for delays. No more 3-year debates while people die. No more dismissing concerns because a species isn't powerful enough to matter. That's not negotiable. Taeyang left. His escort ships departed with him. The counselors sat in stunned silence. We created this, Rex said finally. We created an enemy out of a species that only wanted to be our friend. Now we must pay the price. They didn't become our enemy, Mira corrected. They became our equal. And we hate them for it because we never thought they would. Morpheus floated in the center of the chamber. Begin the reforms. Pay the reparations. And pray that they forgive us enough to return. Because without them, we're discovering just how much we need them. On his ship, traveling back to human space, Taeyang removed his formal uniform and slumped in his chair. Captain Inho Beak, commander of the escort fleet, sat down across from him. You did well, Inho said. I threatened to destroy planets, Taeyang replied. I showed them weapons designed to kill billions. Would you use them? No, never. But they don't know that. Fear is sometimes the only language the powerful understand. We're powerful now, too. Yes, Taeyang said quietly. And that's what terrifies me. We spent so long being ignored that I'm not sure we know how to handle being feared. We'll figure it out, Inho said. Just like we figured out everything else, together. Taeyang looked out at the stars. Somewhere behind them, the Galactic Council was beginning the hard work of change. Whether they would succeed remained to be seen, but at least now they were trying. And that was a start. 2 years after humanity withdrew from the galaxy, Ambassador Hannah Park stood in the rebuilt Galactic Council chambers and felt a strange sense of completion. The room looked different now. The old hierarchical seating arrangement was gone, replaced by a circular design where every species sat at the same level. No one was above anyone else anymore. Her new title was Ethics Overseer, a position created specifically to ensure that what happened to humanity never happened to anyone else. It gave her authority to investigate any petition that took longer than 30 days to address. She could demand explanations, force votes, and report directly to all member species if the Council tried to hide behind bureaucracy again. The first year was chaos, she told Day One during a private meeting in her office. He had remained her closest advisor, though he now held the rank of commander. Half the counselors fought every reform. The other half couldn't implement changes fast enough. Which half won? Neither. Both. It's complicated. Hannah pulled up reports on her display. We've processed more petitions in the last year than the Council did in the previous 20. Some species are angry about the loss of their special privileges. Others are grateful that their voices finally matter. Day One scrolled through the data. The Chitauri? Medical crisis resolved. We shared the genetic therapy technology once they agreed to reform. Their population has stabilized. Healer Sith sends me reports every month, thanking us. Hannah smiled slightly. They're actually improving on our designs. Turns out they're quite good at genetic manipulation when they're motivated. The Vrillex? Hana's smile faded. Still struggling. Warlord Krax was overthrown 6 months ago. His people blamed him for the starvation crisis. The new government requested humanitarian aid, which we provided. But their territory is unstable. Civil war might be coming. Do we help if it does? That's the question we debate every day. Do we let them suffer the consequences of their actions, or do we help because helping is what we do? Hana sighed. I don't have an answer yet. In the Vrillex territory, the situation was indeed dire. The once proud empire had fractured into competing factions. Food was still scarce despite human aid. Infrastructure that had relied on human maintenance for decades was failing. But in the chaos, something unexpected was happening. A young Vrillex commander named Kethros was building something new. He called it the Redemption Fleet, and its purpose was not conquest, but protection. They guarded smaller species' territories, stopped raiders, and provided security for colonies that couldn't defend themselves. The humans showed us what we should have been, Kethros told his officers during a briefing. Protectors, not predators. They're not here to save us this time. We have to save ourselves by becoming better than we were. His movement was small but growing, and humanity was watching carefully. On Earth, Dr. Mina Choi led a team of scientists in dismantling parts of the barrier network. The quantum barrier had served its purpose, but maintaining it was expensive, and isolation was no longer necessary. Humanity was returning to the galaxy, but on their own terms. We're keeping the core systems active, Mina explained during a press conference broadcast throughout human space. The barrier can be reactivated in hours if needed. But we're opening trade routes again, carefully, slowly, with verification procedures at every step. Admiral J. Park, now retired from active military service, watched the broadcast from his home. He had given the order to activate the barrier 2 years ago, knowing it might be permanent. Now he watched as it came down, section by section, and felt relief wash over him. His grandson ran into the room, excited. Grandfather, teacher says we might get to meet aliens soon. Real ones, not just on video. Maybe, Admiral J said. But remember what I taught you. Different doesn't mean lesser. Strong doesn't mean better. And everyone deserves respect, no matter where they come from. Because that's what humans do, the boy recited. We help, even when others don't deserve it. Especially then, Admiral J corrected gently. Because maybe one day they'll learn to help too. In the council chambers, Special Envoy Taeyang Lee presented humanity's latest proposal. He was more confident now, having spent 2 years negotiating and observing the galaxy's changes. Some counselors had learned. Others were still learning. A few never would. Humanity proposes the creation of the Mutual Defense Compact, Taeyang announced. Any species, regardless of size or military power, can request protection. An attack on one member is considered an attack on all members. No more 3-year debates. No more studying petitions while people die. This essentially makes humanity the galaxy's police force, one counselor objected. No, Taeyang replied. It makes all of us responsible for each other. Humanity will contribute ships and resources. So will you. The Avian Concordat has already pledged support. The Chitauri are building medical frigates to accompany defense fleets. Even some Vrillex factions have offered to help. Counselor Myra stood. The old system failed because the powerful didn't care about the weak. This system succeeds if everyone contributes what they can. My people support this proposal. The vote was close, but it passed. The Mutual Defense Compact became reality, with humanity as one voice among many, rather than a supplicant begging for scraps. Lieutenant Kung Su, finally able to return home after 2 years under cover, met with Hana to deliver his final report. They sat in a quiet cafe on the neutral station, watching ships from dozens of species dock and depart. I saw everything fall apart, Kyung-soo said, and I watched it slowly come back together. The galaxy is different now. Not perfect, but better. Was it worth it? Hannah asked. All the suffering we could have prevented if we just accepted being ignored? Kyung-soo thought carefully before answering. 30,000 humans died before we withdrew. But if we'd stayed and accepted that treatment, how many more would have died over the next century? How many other species would have been ignored the same way? Sometimes you have to break something completely before you can rebuild it properly. Hannah nodded slowly. I tell myself that, but I still see their faces. The children from Tizen Colony. The families torn apart. I made the choice to walk away from the council, and everything that followed came from that choice. You made the choice to demand respect, Kyung-soo replied. They made the choice to ignore you. What followed was on them, not you. In a classroom on Earth, Ambassador Park's great-niece studied galactic history. The textbook showed before and after pictures of the Galactic Council. The old system, hierarchical and corrupt. The new system, more equitable if still imperfect. Was humanity's isolation necessary? The teacher asked the class. Yes, most students said immediately, but one student, a thoughtful girl named Yuri, raised her hand. Maybe. I think humanity tried everything else first. But I wonder if there was a way to fix things without so many people suffering. That's a good question, the teacher said. And it's one that diplomats and historians will debate for generations. The important thing is to remember what we learned. Power isn't just military strength. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away and let others realize what they've lost. On the neutral station, Captain Daewon Kim met with a group of young diplomats from various species. They were the new generation, trained in the Reformed Council's values. Many of them looked at Daewon with something approaching awe. He had been there when humanity walked away. He had been part of the decision that changed the galaxy. How did you know it would work? One young diplomat asked. How did you know they would change? We didn't, Daewon admitted. We prepared for the possibility that they wouldn't. We had plans for permanent isolation, for building a civilization entirely separate from the galactic community. But we also believed that most species, when faced with consequences, can learn. Not all of them. Not quickly. But eventually. And if they hadn't learned, Daewon looked out at the stars. Then we would have built something better on our own, and hoped that one day they'd ask to join us, instead of the other way around. On the Vrillax homeworld, former warlord Krax lived in exile, forgotten by his people. He spent his days watching news feeds of the galaxy he had helped break. He saw human ships working alongside Vrillax, vessels in the redemption fleet. He saw prosperity returning to regions that had suffered under his rule. And he understood too late what he had lost by choosing conquest over cooperation. They were never weak, he said to no one in particular. We just couldn't see strength that didn't look like ours. Back in human space, Admiral J. Park received a message from Taeyang. The young envoy had negotiated another treaty, this one establishing joint research stations where humans and other species could collaborate on technology. The galaxy was slowly learning to share rather than take. We're not heroes, Admiral J. told a journalist interviewing him about the isolation period. We did what we had to do to survive. With dignity. The real heroes are the counselors who admitted they were wrong, the species who changed their ways, the people who looked at a broken system and chose to fix it rather than defend it. But humanity forced that change. We created the circumstances where change was necessary. They did the actual changing. That's harder than walking away ever was. In the council chambers, Hana watched as a petition from a small species called the Denari was addressed within 24 hours. Their colony had been attacked by raiders. The Mutual Defense Compact dispatched ships immediately. Human vessels, Chitauri medical ships, avian scouts, and yes, even 3 Vrillax warships from the Redemption Fleet. The raiders were stopped. The colony was saved. No one had to beg 47 times for help. Hana felt tears on her cheeks and didn't bother to wipe them away. This was what she had wanted. This was why she'd walked away from the council that day. Not revenge. Not isolation. But a galaxy where everyone mattered. Day 1 found her standing alone after the session ended. "Are you okay?" "I'm thinking about Tizen Colony," Hana said. "About all the people we lost. They died because the galaxy didn't think they mattered. But their deaths changed everything. Is that enough? Can that ever be enough?" "No," Day 1 said honestly. "Nothing can make their deaths worthwhile. But we can make sure they weren't meaningless. We can make sure no one else has to die waiting for help that never comes." Hana nodded. "Then we keep working. We keep watching. We make sure this new system doesn't become as corrupt as the old one. We will. That's what humans do. We see problems and we fix them. We see injustice and we fight it. Even when it's hard. Even when it costs us." They stood together, watching as ships from a dozen species worked together outside the station's windows. The galaxy wasn't perfect. Old prejudices remained. Some species still thought themselves superior to others. But the foundation had changed. The rules had changed. And slowly, painfully, the galaxy was becoming a place where everyone could have a voice. Humanity had abandoned diplomacy when diplomacy failed them. They had let the galaxy panic and suffer until it learned the cost of indifference. And now, with the lesson learned and reforms in place, they were building something new. Not a galaxy ruled by the powerful. Not a galaxy where the young and small had to beg for recognition. But a galaxy where everyone, human and alien alike, could live with dignity and know that when they called for help, someone would answer. It wasn't the ending humanity had wanted when they first joined the galactic community 50 years ago. But it was the ending they had earned through patience, suffering, and an unshakable belief that respect was not optional, and it was enough.